people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. Floyd Schofield and Lucas Bahdi have finally signed for the vacant WBA title fight. Floyd Schofield and Lucas Bahdi will collide for the vacant WBA lightweight title on October 10th in Chicago. Schofield is ranked number 6 by the ring at 135 pounds, and Bahdi is positioned at number 8. Golden Boy and MVP reached terms ahead of a scheduled purse bid, with the ring's Mike Coppinger confirming that both camps finalized the paperwork.
To my knowledge, Golden Boy Promotions doesn't do a whole heap of shows in the Chicago area. They operate more out of the West Coast. So is it going to be MVP at the helm of the promotion?
Schofield was set to challenge Shakur Stevenson in February of last year. Before withdrawing during fight week, the 23-year-old returned 4 months later, stopping Fevin Tarmer in the opening round to take his record to 19-0 with 13 stoppages. Bahdi, 32, forced his way into contention through a far tougher route. His 6th round finish of Ashton Silva in July of 2024 transformed his career, securing him a multi-fight deal with MVP. The Canadian has since defeated Armando Casamonica, Ryan James Razaka, and former WBA super featherweight champion Roger Gutierrez, moving his ledger to 20-0 with 15 knockouts, about the same number of fights as Floyd Schofield, and he's been out about the same amount of time.
About a year.
Schofield possesses superior hand speed, but Lucas represents a genuine hurdle that cannot be dismissed as routine matchmaking. The Ontario native carries heavy physical strength, staying composed under fire with dangerous finishing power.
Ashton Silva controlled most of their rounds before Bahdi caught him with a crushing left-right sequence in the 6th. That punch will demand strict discipline from Schofield. The younger prospect has occasionally leaned too heavily on raw athleticism, creating defensive lapses during exchanges. Rene Tellez Hirong capitalized on those openings to drop him during their 2024 meeting. Bahdi is unlikely to outbox Schofield in a pure speed contest, but he does not require round-by-round volume. He simply needs to stay within range to capitalize whenever Schofield overextends or retreats with his chin exposed.
Which could happen because Floyd is not a boxer's boxer. He's not a cerebral guy, not a thinker. He's an artillery fighter that gets by off his physical prowess and power.
And because Lucas Bahdi has power of his own and Floyd Schofield is prone to opening up, that may give Lucas the openings to make this interesting.
This is not a gimme fight. This is a genuine step up for Floyd Schofield. One might argue that the best name on his resume so far is former champion Tevin Farmer, but context is key. Tevin may have been the most accomplished fighter that he ever fought, but when he fought him, he was coming off of 3 consecutive losses, 3 very hard losses, to Raymond Murataya and 2 to William Zepeda, who beat him from pillar to post. So when you consider that there probably wasn't much left of Tevin to bring to a Floyd Schofield fight, that might explain why Floyd knocked him out so fast.
When have you seen Floyd in there with somebody who's all in their prime, unbeaten, like he is? Whereas Lucas has been there at least once when he fought Ashton Silva and stopped him, beating him and beating the odds.
The WBA placed Gervonta Davis in its champion in recess category in June after determining that pending legal matters could prevent him from fulfilling mandatory duties. The sanctioning body then ordered Schofield and Bahdi to battle for the vacant crown. The winner will emerge as the WBA's full champion at lightweight, setting up a potential consolidation match with Davis whenever the sanctioning body returns him to active status.
And that will not be this year. You know the WBA did that with a heavy heart because they probably would prefer to have Gervonta holding their title. But the fact of the matter is, he's not going to fight at any point this year, and it's not even a guarantee that he comes back in the next one. I feel like he's all but done in the lightweight division. If he is going to fight on, It's probably going to be at 140 or at a catch weight,
though not at 135, ending his campaign as a lightweight. I think at least he's done there.
Upstairs at welterweight, Romero on the Lopez fight. The enemy is my little brother who I love dearly. The friends will make ends meet and later break bread together, but one will certainly go back to the drawing board with a broken spirit and in an unfavorable position. The drama unfolds on Saturday when Romero defends his WBA title against Lopez at the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas to headline a DAZN and Prime Video pay-per-view event presented by PBC.
There were so many other fights I was trying to give the fans, but Teofimo was the actual one who was not scared. Romero told the ring, he'll fight anybody. It's the same with me. I'll fight anybody. Did I pick Teofimo? No. The last thing I wanted to do was fight my friend. He's my little brother. The enemy is my little brother and someone who I love very dearly. He was the last one on my list.
Not here by choice, but circumstance. All the other fights Rolly tried to have fell through, and this is somewhat different to what you hear from Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis, who also claim to be close friends, but they won't fight each other. These guys will.
After beating Brian Garcia last year, Romero had failed negotiations for a rematch with his most recent rival. Fights against Manny Pacquiao, Devin Haney, and Conor Benn didn't materialize either, and Romero had no motive to face mandatory challengers, first in Shakram Giyasov and subsequently Jack Catterall, who beat him. So Romero's circuitous route eventually led him to Lopez. God doesn't make mistakes. The delay was meant to be. I needed the delay. I needed the time off, Romero said. I had to be reborn again in Christ. And I did. I had to die to myself, which I did die to myself when I was reborn in Christ. I was keeping busy by training out of boredom. I mean, what else am I gonna do? Just be at home, do nothing, playing video games, and eating potato chips? There's only so many vacations I can go on, and the money gets boring. Romero credits Lopez for stabilizing his financial future with a $5,000 loan in 2019 before he eventually made big money fighting Gervonta Davis and Isaac Cruz, albeit in losing efforts while getting stopped. Romero also recalls the sparring sessions with Precision, 4 times in total for 26 rounds.
I'd say that's 4 times too many.
With the last time being on October 27th of 2017. He had his moments, I had my moments. Sparring is sparring, a fight is a fight, Romero said. You fight in the gym all the time, but I've never experienced fighting a close friend like this. I don't fight for money, I fight for legacy. Beating Teofimo puts me in the Hall of Fame. I believe Teofimo is already in the Hall of Fame.
I don't know about that.
A fight is a fight, and I like big fights, Romero said. I'm a hometown hero. It's time to represent my city, and it happens to be against Lopez, who was the only one left.
He's talking up Teofimo. Teofimo's talking him up.
Likening Rolly Romero to Vasyl Lomachenko and Shakur Stevenson. He was stopped by Isaac Pitbull Cruz in 2024, and he was fortunate to sneak away with a controversial 9th round stoppage against Ishmael Barroso.
The year before that,
He was losing on all 3 judges' scorecards. The win came with a stain, as many of Romero's peers billed him as the worst active champion at the time. But Romero has revived his career and taken a seat at the head of the welterweight table by dropping and decisioning Brian Garcia last time out in May of last year.
we've already been through why I think that is, so we don't need to rehatch that can of worms again here.
Some people are actually giving Rolly Romero decent odds to win this thing, if you can believe that. I believe Mikey Garcia likes his chances in the fight.
His hunger's not there as much as it was before in the earlier days. I mean, fighters go through a phase when they're hungry, but then they lose that when they accomplish so much and you make so much money, you start losing that hunger, that drive. And when you lose that drive, you don't train as much, you don't dedicate yourself as much, and I think that's something that might have happened with Teofimo. Even in his victory against Barboza or some of the other fights, he didn't really show me the old Teofimo. So I think Rollis has a much better chance than people think. Rollis is showing up every single fight. Again, even when he fought Ryan, he improved and he showed us discipline. He didn't go all out on the attack just to try to brawl like he used to. He was disciplined to box most of the night. Even though he dropped Ryan, he was able to box and keep a very good composure. So that has improved. And that's why I think Rollis has a much better chance. I still think it's a 50-50 fight.
Mikey Garcia seems to be giving Rolly Romero the benefit of the doubt. So is Teofimo, who's fighting him, saying that he's at the level of Lomachenko and Stevenson. Lopez told The Ring. He's a champion for a reason. He's a 3-weight title holder for a reason. People tend to think of his style and how he looks when he fights, but the guy finds a way to win. So, we miss out on those things by discrediting how they look.
3-weight title holder? You mean interim champion at lightweight? Right place, right time champion at 140 and right place, right time champion at 147?
Well, it's not how you look, it's how you win. And it's how you move on from it. He's a tough competitor. He's the toughest guy that I'm facing at 147. I think everyone knows that. And we're here to step up to the plate and take over. Romero is not ranked among the ring's top 10 contenders for a welterweight title that's vacant. But he is ranked by Lopez, a former unified lightweight and Ring Magazine and WBO junior welterweight champion, as a close friend. I'd say that's the hardest part, is taking those steps towards separating our relationship. Lopez, the most difficult part is really going to be actually going along with it. There is a point in boxing where if people continue to see friendships happening and occurring, we're going to get fewer fights. So, we have to lead by example. Lopez is confident he can crush Romero following his lopsided loss against Stevenson in January. Lopez only won 1 round across the scorecards and was outlanded 165-72 in what proved to be his final fight at 140 pounds, following a 4-year, 7-fight run in the division. Everything against Stevenson happened exactly the way it needed to happen, Lopez said. Now, we're here. We didn't miss a beat. We just got elevated to something bigger and better. I am always confident that I will be victorious. I know that with training and everything that I'm aligning with, it's time for me to really step up to who I am.
Rolly only got a title at 140 because they robbed Ishmael Barroso of the win, stopping the fight over punches that Rolly didn't even land.
That's how he became a champion at 140, and at 147 he was just in the right place at the right time. The WBA literally manufactured a belt out of thin air for him and Ryan to fight, so that when Boots moves up and drops his belt,
Rolly gets elevated. That's it. Right place, right time. And people are actually giving him good odds to beat Teofimo. Breadman is.
Teo, I don't think he has the physicality at 147 pounds. No, at 135, he was a monster. He loses, he goes to 140, and he put together a great performance against Josh Taylor, but, you know, he hasn't really hurt anybody at 140. I think that Rolly found something in the Ryan Garcia fight. To fight a disciplined fight like that for 12 rounds against a talent like Ryan Garcia was impressive to me. I know Pitbull smoked him, and maybe that was a style thing, but I can remember during the Tank fight, I watched that fight, and for 5.5 rounds, he was getting the better of Tank. And it wasn't because Tank was allowing him to get the better of him, even though Tank kind of fights like that. It was a thing like, I got to be careful running up in here on this guy because this dude can hurt you. And last but not least, he used his jab that last fight. Although Teofimo is the better all-around fighter, I think that Rolly is riding high right now, and he's feeling himself, and he's coming off of a career best win. And I think Teofimo was just completely shut out by Shakur Stevens. His confidence is probably a little bit shaky right now. So you mix everything together, I think that the weight and the timing of the fight favors Rolly, and I like him to squeak out a decision.
Now, there may be something to what Stephen Breadman Edwards is saying, that this weight probably favors Rolly a little more because he's got more room to fill out than Teo.
But I can't stress this enough. The familiarity factor, that because they've sparred each other so many times for so many rounds, when the opening bell sounds, Rolly's gonna revert to the version of himself that sparred Teofimo, the version that Teofimo knows. And that's why I think Teo's gonna win.
I don't know if he's gonna knock him out because it's been a really long time since Teo knocked anybody out, but I have him winning.
Which would make Teo a 3-division champion, which would get him back on the Ring IQ pound for pound list.
So we'll see if the prediction sticks.
Finally, in men's light heavyweight news, a story that somewhat surprised me. Ben Whittaker's been offered a British blockbuster with Anthony Yarde as the timeline has been laid out. Anthony would relish the opportunity to face Ben Whittaker, according to his trainer and manager, Tunde Ajayi.
Why is that surprising? The 35-year-old hasn't set foot in the ring since a punishing 7th-round stoppage loss to David Benavidez in November. It marked a third unsuccessful crack at a light heavyweight title, but it hasn't dampened Yarde's spirits. Talks are already underway for Yarde's next fight, with Nigeria among the possible hosts now that Ajayi is working closely with the country's leading promoter, Balmoral Promotions, on a strategic partnership. A is ready, Ajayi told TalkSport. One thing about Anthony Yarde is that he has been a consummate professional his whole career, and I always put that down to how he has managed to get these fights. He is consistent and professional. Until he is ready to call it a day, he will be ready.
Well, that day is getting closer and closer.
Right now we are in discussions about him fighting within the next couple of months. Now, with his collaboration, don't be surprised if you see Anthony Yarde in Nigeria. Once Yarde has got his next outing out of the way, a bout with Whittaker could be made as early as the first quarter of next year. We spoke to Frank Smith about a fight with Ben Whittaker, and they told us he wasn't going to be ready until next year, likely because he has a fight announced for what remains of this one.
Ben is on his trajectory now, and people have always tried to build their name on Anthony Yarde. And I don't want Ben Whittaker to be another Joshua Buatsi where your whole career is built off us and you still don't fight. We want to see that fight. Anthony Yarde versus Buatsi, but we also want to see him against the new up-and-coming man, Ben Whittaker, and Anthony would relish a fight against him. If you want to fight, you know Anthony Yarde is your man. He's a man who has proved himself over and over again. Whittaker faces Aussie-Irish star Connor Wallace in an IBF final eliminator on October 3rd in Birmingham, as first reported by TalkSport.
While Whittaker would become the IBF mandatory for the unified champion Dimitri Bivol with a win, the fight is unlikely to be ordered until the back end of next year, and that's because Bivol fulfilled his IBF mandatory obligation this past May by outclassing Germany's Michael Eifert. All indications therefore point towards Whittaker taking a fight in the interim, and an all-British showdown with Yarde could be the pick of the bunch.
So what's surprising about any of this?
That Tunde Ajayi and Anthony Yarde are actually entertaining a Ben Whittaker fight and haven't migrated to Zuffa yet, like Craig Spider Richards and Alexander Vosdik, because Anthony, let's face it, he's in the same place in his career now that they are.
They just got rid of Vosdik too, so there's room for him over there.
And they're set to do their second show in the UK next month, headlined by Johnny Fisher, creating an opportunity for a fighter like Anthony Yarde, who's already got a few career blemishes and needs to regain some traction, some stability in his career. I can tell you now, if he fights Ben, he loses. I think Anthony's punch resistance is gone, and now that Ben Whittaker stopped with the horseplay, stopped playing with his food, he's getting guys out of there quick.
He's actually really big for a light heavyweight.
Punches pretty hard too when he's not too busy doing Fortnite dances in the middle of a fight. I wouldn't call Anthony Yarde an acid test for Ben Whittaker per se, but perhaps a developmental fight to help develop his marquee value.
They'd be using Anthony as a stepping stone because at this point, that's what he is.